Hello, this is OTG welcoming you back to the Harmony Within series, off the grid conversations about spiritual wellness, recovery, and the deeper truths we don't always say out loud. We've walked together from step 1 through step 11. We admitted we were powerless, turned our will over to God, cleaned house, repaired the past, and learned to keep our side of the street clean every day. We sought God's guidance through prayer and meditation, and now we arrive at step 12. It's not the finish line. As I've said before, it's not graduation from the program. It's the moment where the journey becomes a way of life and where we turn outward once again. So step 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry his message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. So this step is about three things: the spiritual awakening, carrying the message, and practicing the principles in every area of our life. So the spiritual awakening. The big book doesn't define a spiritual awakening as a single lightning strike moment, though for some it happens that way. For most of us, it's gradual, a shift in perception, a release from old burdens, the ability to respond to life differently than before. We know we've had one when we find ourselves doing things sober we could never have done drunk, or even early in sobriety, when we react with patience instead of rage, when we choose honesty even though lying feels safer, when we forgive someone we swore we'd never forgive. That's the awakening, the psychic change. The awakening is the change in who we are at the core, brought about by walking through all 12 steps, not skipping around them. It's the result of the work, not the starting point. We said, I need help, in step 1. We said, I have help, in step 3. In step 6, we said, I'm using the help. And then in step 9, we've used the help, and now in step 12, we're becoming the help, along with God. That's the evolution. We have gone from being baffled and confused and utterly powerless and clueless to having faith that things will be okay. And then through that faith, understanding that our responsibility is to become more than just our body. And that's where the awakening begins. When we realize we are not our bodies, that we are a higher being that has a body, we can separate from our emotions, and we can do that cognitive behavioral technique of seeing ourselves coming and saying, oh, I'm going to fall into this pitfall of anger, resentment, fear, or dishonesty. I can change this. And that's a divine thing. That is the spiritual awakening. As simple as identifying yourself as a soul. And we know we've had one when we start seeing it change in our lives, like it said. The awakening is a remembrance of our innocence. It's a remembrance of our inner child. It's the healing of our inner child. Because I really do believe that every alcoholic has a screaming inner child, an angry teenager, and an adult that just wants peace. You know? And I see that everywhere. And we have to let go of all of that anger and all of that rage in our teenager self and all of that pain from our inner child and heal them into one solid person, one soul. Because we're no longer going to look back at the inner child, the past, and say, oh, I feel guilt or shame or anger or rage or resentment for that. We are now in a present state of grace because we're not looking into the future and fearing it. You know, we're in the right size body, in the right time, and we're no longer integrated into it. We are above it. We are somewhere back and behind our bodies, observing us. And that gives us the bufferage that we need to say, hey, I can see this coming. You can see your craving because your craving is based on a feeling of powerlessness, and you can identify this and change your geography, whether it be emotional, physical, or all of the above. And that's power. When you give yourself to your higher power, you become that higher power. And that higher power is going to have you carry the message. because AA is a program of attraction, not promotion. We don't force the message, we live it by example. And when someone struggling sees that light in our life, they may ask how we got it. And that's carrying the message, living my life by example. Sponsoring a newcomer is a way of carrying the message. Sharing in a meeting, answering the phone when another alcoholic calls, bringing a meeting into a jail or a treatment center, or sharing one online. Just simply living in a way that reflects recovery principles. A life of spiritual posterity, And the more we give it away, the more we receive. So spiritually, giving away what was freely given to us is an act of gratitude. We keep what we have by giving it away. And psychologically, helping others strengthens our own recovery. When we explain the steps to someone else, we remember why we work them. When we hear their story, it keeps our own disease fresh in our mind and our own exercises in sobriety in our mind, reminding us where we came from. So emotionally, service gets us out of ourselves, out of self-pity, isolation, resentment. They shrink when we're actively focused on helping another person. And it could be something as easy as making just coffee. Everyone going to a meeting depends on the person who makes the coffee, because that's going to be the basis of one of the communal things there. Everyone likes to drink coffee. And believe it or not, that's actually a big deal. It starts letting people rely on you. It lets you start feeling as though you can be relied upon. Service is great and healing in a very quiet and subtle way. You just start feeling better. And if you're making the coffee, you're not going to miss the meeting. So service is always good, and it can be as simple as coffee. It doesn't have to be chairing. It doesn't have to be sponsorship, though it is always good to try to fulfill the 12th step by sponsoring somebody else, giving back. I actually have created this OTG Harmony Within series as a way of giving back. This is part of my step 12. I have an amazing sponsor, Nuclear Charlie. He was the perfect person to bring me through the steps. Everything that I know from him and from my own experience and the exercises and the guidance that he gave me. I am alive because of him and his ability to reach me. I am so grateful to him that there aren't words that I can even conjure to express. It chokes me up, because I live this life now because he gave me what brought him back from dead. And this entire series is dedicated to Nuclear Charlie. Everything from the beginning, from the truth all the way through to step 12, this entire series is dedicated to that man who saved my life. He gave me back my soul. He gave me the most solid concept of God that I've ever understood. He gave me everything. And for that, I look at him as though he's an extension of my higher power. He is love. And that's where we try to get, because the theme of the 12 steps is the joy of a life lived well. And I live well because of that. And I practice these principles in all my affairs because I love my life, and I want my life to continue loving me. That is my higher power. That is what I offer you, and that's why I give it away. So practicing these principles in all of our affairs are not just something that we do for meetings. They're like tools for living. And that means step 1 in a family argument, admitting that I'm powerless over another person's reaction. There's step 4 in a work conflict, looking, honestly at my part in something that went wrong. Step 9, when I've wronged a friend, making amends promptly. Step 11, when I needed guidance, pausing to pray before making a decision. All of the steps are riddled throughout my daily life. And when I bring the steps into all my affairs, life stops being divided into program and real world. The program is my real world. And so on a daily basis, when I'm practicing step 12 every day, it can be simple. Answer the newcomer's text. Give a little bit of good advice. Give a little bit of hey, kudos, you're doing well, encouragement. Share at a meeting when you rather hide in the back. Because when you share in a meeting, You are actively participating in your recovery. You're giving back and you are participating in it because God speaks through the people who share in these meetings. And if you don't speak, you might be depriving somebody of a lifesaver that they needed to hear. I watched Charlie speak in the meetings, and he goes into this channel almost. It's strange. He has this preamble he says to all of his shares, which basically is thanking the fellowship and the program of AA because he didn't have to drink, and for that and the many blessings, he is very, very grateful. And then he'll start talking. And I don't know where it comes from, but it just seems to me like everybody else has the same reaction. Like, I'm hearing what I needed to hear through him. And I watched the room because he is my sponsor and he is a very good speaker. And I watch people put their hands on their stomachs. I watch people nod. I watch people sigh. I watch people breathe. I watch people wake up. And I absolutely admire that about him. I wanted that. I wanted to know what that was like. And though I may not be as eloquent as he is with words, and I may not be as instinctive, I'm very comfortable with myself now and in the capacity to speak in front of strangers. I don't have crippling fear anymore. And the humility of service and carrying the message is humbling, you know? It's very humbling. Where some people think that carrying the message is about playing savior. We're not here to fix anyone. Our role is to share what worked for us, listen without judgment, and point towards the steps. Whether they take us, whether they take the path or not is up to them. But we are the road signs. We are the maps. We are the way to the light. And sometimes service means doing the invisible work, like I had said, stacking chairs, making coffee, cleaning up after the meeting. It's guaranteeing you're going to be there, that you're going to be present. And the humility in those acts keep our egos in check. Step 12 is joy. It's joy in motion. So one of the promises of this step is that we discover that life is rich in purpose. The same energy we use to spend hiding, scheming, or numbing, we now use to connect, encourage, and create. The joy of step 12 isn't just in helping others. It's in realizing that God is using us, our past pain, our past experiences, all of the stuff that made us feel like trash, to help us with someone's present, to say, you're not alone, I was there too. And that turns it to gold. What once was shame becomes a doorway to another person's hope. And so this leaves me with some reflection questions, just to drive the point home. What does a spiritual awakening mean to me today? Well, to me it means that I don't have to be out of control of my emotions. I don't have to be hopeless. I don't have to be powerless because I have a connection to pure power. It means that I am now awake to the fact that I am not just an animal of instincts. I can change my future. I don't have to fear it anymore. I can change my past. I can make amends with it. I don't have to feel guilty or shame about that anymore. That's what a spiritual awakening means to me today. I am free. And another reflection question, number 2, is how am I actively carrying the message right now? Well, I try to live by example. I try to administer good advice. I try to give back in ways that I think are productive. And I created this OTG, which means one true God, or off the grid. It has a lot of meanings to me. But this is my way of giving back what I see in step 12 and some of the pitfalls that I did not hear about in the rooms. My situation's a little bit weird. Like, I live with active alcoholics. They're all in my life, and the denial sometimes makes me feel like I'm going crazy, but I know there's other people out there who have the same situations or something similar. And so I want to have these conversations about truth and about how sometimes a selfish disease has a selfish solution. And it's true, because your truth has to be the pit that you dig yourself out of and that you look at and that you understand where it is and how you fell into it and why. Somebody telling you it's not there isn't going to help you from not falling in it. So you have to really, really crystallize that spiritual faith, because that's all you got. You and your God, or your spiritual higher power, you know? So my third question is, do I bring the steps into my work, home, and relationships, or only into meetings? And though that seems like a dumb question, you bring it everywhere, because it's a change in your character. It's a change in your integrity. It's an improvement upon you that'll matriculate out into all of your lives and all of your relationships, into all of your dealings. We practice these principles in all our affairs. That means 24/7. So my fourth question is, where am I holding back service because of fear or comfort? Well, for me, I would not sponsor somebody. I didn't want to sponsor somebody because I was too scared I would mess them up, or that I would be the catalyst to someone going back out or drinking. And so I never did a step 12. And my sponsor told me that I need to do that eventually. And I figured, well, this is the closest thing I have to a step 12, because I still am leery of sponsoring. I will eventually, but for now, this is me leading people through the steps and what my understanding of it is. And I'm brutally honest with myself. I don't look at it as complacency. I look at it as caution. And I will eventually get there. You know, my progress is steady, but it's slow, because I need it to be. Because every time I try to rush, I end up falling on my face and going back out because there was some loophole that I lost my faith in. And I know that, and it's a truth. When I disconnect from this program, I disconnect from my sobriety. I disconnect from my higher power. And that is one of my biggest fears now. Probably my only, because I know it's a possibility if I don't stay living these steps. So the fifth question I have is, how is helping others change the way I see my own recovery? Well, my sponsor is a wise man. And he said, if you really want to know if you know something, try teaching it to someone. Explain it. And that's what I'm doing here. So step 12 is a service commitment. It's a sponsor connection. It's living a daily principle. It's your gratitude story. It's an outreach goal. These are all things that you can utilize step 12 as. You know, take a regular service role at a meeting if you want to. Call your sponsees or your sponsor and ask if there's anyone that you can administer to, or check on the recovery of some friends. Pick one step each day and look for ways to apply it throughout your day. Gratitude lists are something I really like. I like to write them at least once a week just to keep things fresh and keep me humble and keep me right size. Focus on experience, strength, and hope. It's a great way. I share all the time. Every meeting I share at, and I go to meetings every day. I keep it fresh. I'll even reach out to the newcomers I see in the meetings and welcome them so that they feel included. These are all the ways that I practice step 12. And from step 11 to a lifelong cycle is a nice thing. Step 11 deepened our conscious contact with God. Step 12 puts that connection into action through service and principle-based living. So the steps don't end here, they cycle. Every time we help someone through the program, we're reminded that it works for ourselves. And so we keep on doing and keep on doing. And that's why this program is a gift that just keeps on giving. Every person is a story, another form of medication. Every person that comes in and doesn't go back out is another soul saved who can actively participate in helping other people. It's a beautiful construct, and it's definitely spiritual. But this is OTG. Step 12 is where the circle completes and begins again. So we started the journey desperate and lost. Now we stand in a place where we can offer a hand to the next person still in the dark. We're not done. We never will be. But we're walking in the light now, carrying it forward, one conversation, one act of service, one honest day at a time. The gift of step 12 is purpose. The promise that your life, your exact story, with all of its wounds and mistakes, can become the very thing that saves someone else's life. Your nightmare can be the survival manual for somebody else. And in the process, it keeps saving you. So this isn't the end of our work together. It's the beginning of a life where recovery is no longer just something we do. It's who we are. Welcome to your new life. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, Please press like and subscribe. Be blessed. I hope that you all have great evenings. And again, I want to just say this as the end cap to my series on the 12 steps, that this is dedicated to Nuclear Charlie, the best sponsor in the world and one of the truest friends and men that I've ever met. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, God. And thank you for all of you who tuned in, because without you, I wouldn't have this.